Can you satisfy me? Alien woman pleaded with human man. The research outpost had a smell that never quite left the air, a mixture of recycled oxygen, overheated wiring, and the faint metallic tang of loneliness. He had stopped noticing it most days, except when he realized how many hours he spent speaking to machines that pretended to care. The station AI, for example, had taken to greeting him every morning with a different weather report from Earth, though it never quite got the cities right. Today in Buenos Aires, it said cheerily as he floated out of his sleeping pod, expect torrential lava storms. He didn't bother correcting it anymore. It was either a glitch or the AI's idea of a joke, and either way, it meant someone, or something, was trying to keep him entertained. He was halfway through making instant coffee, which in space was more like powder stirred into beige despair when the proximity alarm chimed. Not the soft ping it used when a supply drone docked, but a sharper sound, like the station had stubbed its toe. He frowned, sloshed powder into a cup, and muttered, "If this is another package of dehydrated asparagus, I swear I'll." But the screen showed nothing on the manifest, no incoming ship, nothing that made sense. Something was simply there. He floated toward the airlock, cup in hand, already regretting leaving his slippers behind. The door cycled with a hiss, and the world tilted. Standing just beyond the threshold, framed by the cold glow of the moon below, was someone he had no algorithm for. She looked, at first glance, like a woman. Human, almost painfully so, with eyes that seemed older than stars and skin that reflected light, as if it were remembering sunlight. But the ears were the giveaway, long, slender, elegant arcs that twitched faintly, as though they were listening to things his clumsy human senses could never catch. He blinked at her, then blinked again. His coffee cup floated out of his hand, spinning lazily in the zero-gravity corridor. The droplets of liquid formed tiny orbs, drifting like a constellation between them. He lunged for one, missed, and ended up bumping against the wall with the grace of a drunken jellyfish. She tilted her head. "You are human." The voice was melodic, almost trembling, as if speaking his language cost her something. "Last I checked," he said, trying to grab the cup again. The droplets had attached themselves to the ceiling like smug little stars, though the station paperwork does classify me as questionably functional. Her ears twitched, a flicker that might have been confusion or amusement. "I am not here by mistake." "Well," he said, pushing himself upright and immediately floating sideways into another wall, "that makes one of us." For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint hum of the station's life support systems. Then she stepped inside, her movements strangely graceful in the weightless corridor. She looked around as if memorizing the space, her eyes catching on the messy pile of laundry straps, the half-disassembled comms panel, and the neon sticker on his terminal that read "Don't panic." "I have traveled far," she said, her voice quieter now. "I have come to ask, can you satisfy me?" He choked on absolutely nothing. "I what? Excuse me? That's, you might want to clarify." Her ears flicked again. She repeated the phrase, slower this time, as though pronunciation were the issue. "Can you satisfy me?" The words hung in the recycled air like static. His brain scrambled to process. Was this a mistranslation? A cultural ritual? A prank by the AI? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I feel like we're missing at least 6 footnotes here. Are we talking emotionally, physically, spiritually, or are you just really hungry? Because I can only provide instant noodles and regret." Her gaze didn't waver. "It is none of those. And all of those. It is difficult to explain." "Good," he muttered. "I like my existential crises, with a side of mystery." For a moment, he swore her lips curved, just slightly. Not a full smile, more like the ghost of one. He was still staring when a droplet of coffee detached from the ceiling and smacked him right in the eye. He sputtered, wiped at his face, and she let out a sound, soft, startled, like a laugh she hadn't meant to release. It broke something in the air. The tension thinned, like pressure easing from a sealed chamber. "Okay," he said finally, rubbing his forehead. "Let's start over. My name's Evan. You are." She paused, as though weighing whether to trust him with the answer. "Lyra." Lyra. Right. Welcome to Outpost K-17, home of questionable cuisine and one very confused scientist. And, satisfaction pending clarification. Her ears twitched again, this time in a way that almost looked like a nod. And just like that, the station no longer smelled entirely of loneliness. Something new had arrived, and it carried questions he wasn't sure he wanted the answers to. But he also knew he wouldn't trade them for all the coffee in the galaxy. Evan had never been good at handling questions that came without a manual. He liked his work neat and measurable, galactic radiation levels, soil composition scans, the occasional recalibration of a machine that swore it was perfectly fine until it burst into flames. But this, an alien woman with ears like living antennae asking if he could satisfy her? He was unqualified in more ways than he could count. She sat across from him at the tiny fold-out table in the mess area, hands resting neatly, ears twitching every time the ventilation system kicked in. He had offered her powdered coffee, which she regarded like it was a war crime. "You consume this willingly?" she asked, nose wrinkling. "Willingly is a strong word," Evan said, stirring his cup. "It's less a beverage and more a ritual of suffering. Builds character." She studied him, then pushed the cup back across the table with the kind of finality usually reserved for peace treaties. "It cannot satisfy." "Yeah, well, join the club." Her ears angled sharply, like radar adjusting. "You continue to misunderstand. Satisfaction is not about food." "Good," Evan said, sipping anyway, "because unless you're into freeze-dried peas, I'm out of options." She exhaled, a sound somewhere between patience and exasperation. "Among my people, to ask the question I have asked is to reveal weakness, to open oneself." She paused, glancing down as if ashamed. "We are not taught to do this lightly." Evan felt his brain scrambling to catch up. His first instinct was to crack another joke, but something in the way her hands tightened around themselves stopped him. Still, his mouth moved before his better judgment could stop it. "So basically, I'm your what? Cosmic therapist? Emotional pizza delivery guy? Satisfaction on demand, 30 minutes or less?" Her ears flicked again, annoyance, maybe, or possibly amusement, but her voice was steady. "You are chosen, because you are human." That threw him. Of all the reasons she could have picked him, scientific expertise, accidental proximity, his unparalleled ability to trip over his own feet, being human was the least convincing. "Chosen. Right. Just to check, you don't mean chosen in the sacrificial goat sense, do you?" Her gaze snapped up, unblinking. "No. In the sense of resonance." "Resonance," he repeated, as if saying it would make it less confusing. "Like music." Her expression softened, just slightly. "Yes. Music of the body. Music of the memory. Music of what you call the soul." He nearly choked on his coffee again. "Wow. No pressure, then." She tilted her head, studying him. "You make humor when you are afraid." "Correct," Evan said immediately. "It's a coping mechanism. Some people scream, some cry. I make bad jokes and occasionally juggle fruit." "We have no fruit," she said flatly. "Exactly. Which means you're stuck with the jokes." This time, she really did smile, or at least something close. The corners of her lips curved, her long ears tilting in a way that felt like laughter translated into body language. He felt the station shrink around them, the mess hall suddenly less like a cage of recycled air and more like something alive. But then her tone grew serious again. "If you refuse, I must leave. My body cannot remain balanced without resonance." Evan leaned back, chair creaking, mind racing through every possible interpretation. Was this a mating ritual? A medical treatment? Some sort of interspecies karaoke session? The problem was, every possibility sounded equally absurd and equally terrifying. "Look," he said carefully, "I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I need, a user's guide. Instructions. Maybe a YouTube tutorial." Her ears twitched in confusion. "You speak of things I do not know. Trust me, you're better off not knowing about YouTube." She leaned forward then, her eyes sharp. "Will you try?" And there it was, the question pressed back onto him, heavier now. He tried to stall. Define try. Because if it involves interpretive dance, I should warn you. I once sprained my ankle tying my shoes. Her silence stretched. Then, the attempt itself is the answer. He stared at her, at the sincerity in her voice, the unshakable weight of it. Somewhere deep in his chest, under all the layers of sarcasm and caffeine dependency, something stirred. He realized she wasn't asking for perfection. She wasn't even asking for understanding. She was asking for him, as he was, flaws and all, which, naturally, terrified him. "All right," he said finally, voice thin. "I'll try. But fair warning, human satisfaction ratings are notoriously unreliable." Her ears dipped in what might have been gratitude. "That is all I ask." The station lights flickered at that moment, as if the universe wanted to underline the absurdity of it all. He groaned. "Perfect. If the power goes out mid-satisfaction, I'm filing a complaint." Lyra tilted her head again, bemused. "You are strange." "Thank you," he said automatically. "I take that as a compliment." And for the first time since she had appeared in his life, the silence between them didn't feel like pressure. It felt like the start of something neither of them could name, balanced delicately between humor and the kind of gravity that pulled at more than just bodies. Evan had faced malfunctions, near vacuum accidents, and once a very aggressive cargo drone that mistook him for recyclable waste, but nothing compared to sitting across from Lyra as she explained what her people needed to survive. He tried to keep his expression serious, but his brain kept translating her solemn words into cosmic dating profile. She spoke slowly, careful with each syllable. "Our bodies carry a rhythm. Alone it falters. Together it sustains. Without resonance, we become hollow." Evan nodded like he understood, though half his mind was still stuck on how hollow sounded like an interstellar horror film. "Okay, so you're basically space tuning forks." "Got it." Her long ears twitched, catching the nuance. "Tuning forks." He winced. "Right cultural gap. Imagine instruments that hum when they touch. That's you. And you need another being to, hum along." She blinked at him, then gave the tiniest nod. "Yes, that is acceptable phrasing." "Good," he said, leaning back, "because my phrasing tends to get me slapped. This is progress." The station lights flickered again, but he ignored them this time. His heart was doing enough flickering for both. "So what you're asking is, you need me to resonate with you?" "Yes." He rubbed his temples. "I barely resonate with my microwave, but sure, let's give this a shot." She reached across the table, hesitant, and touched his hand. It wasn't dramatic, no sparks, no swelling music, but his skin prickled, and the air between them seemed to hum faintly, like a distant engine. He pulled back with a yelp. "Whoa, was that supposed to happen?" "Yes." "Oh, good. For a second, I thought I was allergic." Her ears tilted, amusement sneaking past her composure. "You are not allergic. You are compatible." He groaned. "You make it sound like I'm a spare battery." "In a way," she admitted, "but a battery that laughs." That actually made him laugh, a sharp sound that bounced off the mess hall walls. "Great. I'm a living AA battery with a sense of humor. Just what I always aspired to be." Her gaze softened. "Humor is resonance, too." That stopped him. He didn't know what to do with the sincerity wrapped around her words, so he defaulted to sarcasm. "Well then, I must be a powerhouse. I've been resonating my entire life, without even realizing it." She tilted her head, thoughtful. "Perhaps that is why you were chosen." Evan didn't have an answer for that, so he busied himself with cleaning the table, which mostly involved shoving wrappers into a corner and pretending it was organized. The hum he felt still lingered in his skin, making him jittery. "So, is this resonance thing dangerous? Like, if we do it wrong, do we explode? Or worse, merge into a single horrifying hybrid being? Because I really don't want to explain that to my boss." Her lips curved again. "You worry too much. The only danger is in silence." He raised an eyebrow. "You mean the awkward kind of silence, or the collapsing into void kind of silence?" "Both." "Excellent. That clears everything right up." The AI chimed suddenly, startling them both. "Reminder," it said cheerfully. Maintenance is overdue on the oxygen filters. Also, Buenos Aires is expecting heavy fog today. Evan groaned. Not now, Jeff. You named your machine? Lyra asked, curious. Of course. Jeff's been my only company for months. Though honestly, he's getting sassier every day. Pretty sure he's judging me. Jeff beeped indignantly. I do not judge. I observe with unbiased algorithms. See, Evan muttered. Judgy. Lyra's laugh this time was unmistakable, clear and genuine. It startled him more than her first arrival. He realized then that whatever this resonance was, maybe it had already begun, through jokes, through ridiculous misunderstandings, through her laughter echoing in a place that hadn't heard it in months. But before he could say anything, she grew serious again. The ritual must be completed soon. My time is limited. Evan swallowed. Define limited. She hesitated. Cycles. Not many. Great, he said, slumping back. No pressure. Just save an alien species on a deadline. Totally casual. Her ears dipped. Not species. Me. That hit harder than he expected. For once, he didn't joke. He just looked at her, the hum still alive between them, and said quietly, Then I guess we better figure this out. Jeff beeped again. Statistically, this will end poorly. Shut up, Jeff. Evan and Lyra said at the same time. And that, Evan thought, was probably the closest thing to resonance he'd ever felt. Evan floated through the narrow corridor toward the ritual chamber, coffee cup abandoned on a counter somewhere in zero gravity. Lyra followed, her ears angled forward like twin sensors, scanning for invisible signals. He had spent the last hour practicing how to look calm and competent, which mostly involved gripping the railing and whispering pep talks to himself. So, he said, trying to break the tension, how exactly do we do this? Do I need a manual, or is it more of a freestyle thing? She gave a patient tilt of her head. There are steps, but the spirit matters more than precision. You will need to follow my lead, and also not panic. Not panic, he repeated. Right, easy. I've been training my entire life for this, by avoiding responsibility and eating burnt toast. Her ears twitched. That is amusing. And human. He grinned despite himself. Thanks. I try to keep up standards. They entered the chamber, a room lined with thin, humming conduits of light that pulsed softly, syncing with the station's artificial heartbeat. Evan squinted. So these things are decorative, right? Lyra shook her head. They respond to energy, to rhythm, to resonance. They will help us align. He raised an eyebrow. Align. Got it. Like cosmic yoga. She didn't answer, only gestured for him to stand on a circle etched into the floor. He complied, stepping carefully to avoid floating off like a rogue astronaut. Lyra took her position opposite him, arms folded lightly, eyes half closed, ears twitching in rhythm with the pulsing lights. Okay, he said, trying to sound confident. First step, I guess? You breathe with me, she instructed. Then you reach outward, not just with your hands, but with thought, intention, humor, vulnerability. Evan blinked. You said humor? Yes, she said, opening her eyes. Even laughter carries resonance. He exhaled sharply. Great. Good thing I'm fluent in awkward jokes and poorly timed sarcasm. She tilted her head again. You may begin. He tried to focus. He mimicked her breathing, slow and deliberate, feeling the hum of the conduits grow stronger. He reached outward as best he could, not just with his hands, but with something deeper, something entirely unfamiliar. Lyra mirrored him, and for a moment, the hum became a soft symphony, a vibration through the room and their bodies. Not bad, she said quietly, almost to herself. You carry warmth. Thanks, he replied. I've been warming things professionally for years. Microwaves, coffee, morale, you name it. A ripple of amusement passed through her, ears twitching in a subtle laugh. The tension cracked just enough that he allowed himself to smile. Then the ritual intensified. Lights pulsed faster, the conduits thrumming with energy, responding to their combined rhythm. Evan's hand brushed hers accidentally, and the hum spiked. He yelped. That was wow. That was something. You feel that too, right? Yes, she said softly. We are aligning. Aligning. Perfect. You make it sound so casual. Like we're just tuning pianos or something. Her lips curved in a ghost of a smile. Perhaps you should think of it that way. A piano must resonate, and so must we. He took a deep breath, feeling the connection grow. Not just a physical hum, but a subtle understanding, an unspoken trust. His awkwardness remained, but it no longer felt like a liability. It felt human, necessary. The hum shifted, almost imperceptibly, and Evan realized they were syncing not just in rhythm, but in emotion. He could sense her hesitation, her vulnerability, and the quiet hope beneath it. It struck him that she had trusted him more than he had ever trusted anyone with anything so essential. I think I'm doing it right, he asked nervously, afraid to break the fragile rhythm. You are, she said. Better than I expected. You have given me more than technique. You have given me presence. He laughed, a short, breathy sound that bounced off the chamber walls. Presence. Right. That's my superpower. Mostly useless in zero gravity, but apparently good for alien rituals. She tilted her head, ears twitching again. Your humor steadies me. It is part of resonance. Do not doubt its value. The lights shifted, pulsing slower, softer, and Evan felt a calmness wash over him. The conduit hum was now gentle, almost tender, carrying their combined energy outward into the station. Somehow, they were completing the ritual, not perfectly, but authentically. You see, she said quietly, connection is not perfection. It is honesty, intention, and courage. He grinned, feeling lightheaded and exhilarated at once. I can do honesty. I've been practicing lying about my feelings poorly for decades. I think I'm ready to try the honest thing for once. She reached out, and their hands met, lingering, not with urgency but with shared understanding. The chamber vibrated softly, the lights dimming to a steady pulse, as if acknowledging their success. Do you feel it? She asked, ears twitching with subtle delight. Yes, he said, a laugh in his voice. I feel it. Like music. Or maybe like coffee finally made sense in the universe. Her eyes glimmered. Then we have completed this part. Together. And for the first time, Evan realized that resonance was not just a ritual. It was laughter, missteps, awkward jokes, and trust woven into a harmony neither of them had expected, but both desperately needed. Next step, he said, grinning, is figuring out how to survive the rest of the universe without spilling anything. Again, she laughed, low and bright, and in that sound, he knew they had begun something neither science nor ritual could fully explain, but both could feel, deeply and truly. Evan floated toward the observation deck, the station vibrating softly beneath their combined rhythm. Lyra followed, her ears twitching with every subtle pulse of the conduits embedded in the floor. They had finished the ritual, the hum of resonance still lingering between them, but the weight of what came next pressed silently into the air. You did well, Lyra said quietly, brushing her fingers along the edge of the console. Better than I dared hope. Evan smirked. You make it sound like I just solved quantum equations for fun. I mostly avoided tripping over my own feet. She tilted her head, ears flicking in amusement. That too is part of you. I would not have chosen another. Humor and clumsiness and warmth. These were necessary. He groaned. Warmth and clumsiness. The winning combination of heroes everywhere. Next thing you know, someone's going to make a hollow series about me. Lyra didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer, eyes reflecting the spinning stars outside the viewport. There is one final step, she said softly. To complete the connection, to truly resonate, you must share something only you can give. Evan's stomach twisted. Only me, huh? That's not terrifying at all. Not terrifying, she repeated. Necessary. Vulnerability is the final bridge. He swallowed. All right. Fine. But fair warning, I might screw this up. I've been known to do that. Then do it as yourself, she said. No performance. No pretense. He hesitated, then nodded, closing his eyes. For the first time in weeks, months, maybe, he let himself remember a moment from Earth, A night when he had lain in a field watching meteors streak across the sky, feeling impossibly small yet connected to something larger than himself. He let that memory flow into him, into the chamber, into the space between them. Her hand touched his, light and grounding. "Do not fear," she murmured. "I am here. I am with you." He opened his eyes and saw her looking at him, not with judgment, not with expectation, but with understanding. The vulnerability no longer felt dangerous. It felt alive. "You see," she whispered, ears flicking as the lights around them responded. "You are resonance. All of you. Not perfection, not expertise, only you." He laughed softly, a trembling, incredulous sound. "I'm actually doing it, aren't I? Not messing everything up for once." Her smile was small, sincere. "You have given me what no one else could. Presence, trust, courage, and you have found it in yourself as well." He shook his head, trying to keep the humor alive. "So what you're saying is, I'm a cosmic hero now. That's cool. Definitely better than being a battery." She laughed quietly, the sound light and bright. "You are a hero, in ways even you will never fully grasp." Evan felt a surge of warmth, not the clumsy, accidental warmth of spilled coffee or failed experiments, but something real, anchored in connection. He realized at this moment, this strange, terrifying, miraculous connection had changed him. He no longer felt alone in the vastness of the station or the void outside. He had someone to resonate with, and in doing so, he had learned to accept himself, awkwardness, jokes, and all. "Does this mean," he asked, grinning despite the gravity of the moment, "we've officially survived the weirdest, most intense first date in human-alien history?" Lear's ears twitched, and she laughed softly. "Perhaps, but it is more than that. It is continuation, trust, life." He nodded, feeling a clarity he hadn't known he was capable of. "Then let's continue," he said. "No more half measures. Full-on human, full-on whatever you are. Just us, figuring it out together." She extended her hand fully this time, and he took it. The lights pulsed once, a gentle wave of color that washed over them, filling the observation deck with a warmth that was part technology, part something neither of them could name. "Together," she repeated. "Together," he echoed. And in that single, simple word, the tension dissolved entirely. No fear, no misunderstanding, only a shared pulse that carried them both forward. The resonance didn't end. It expanded, threading through the station, through the hum of machinery, through the orbiting moons and distant stars. It was a proof that connection could transcend species, worlds, and expectations. Evan laughed again, quiet and unrestrained. "So cosmic hero status, then?" Lyra smiled, ears flicking like antennae picking up joy. "Status is irrelevant. Presence is everything." He nodded, feeling it deep in his chest. Presence, humor, vulnerability, trust, all interwoven into something neither science nor ritual alone could explain. He looked out the viewport at the endless stars and realized he had changed. Not by magic or ritual alone, but by the courage to trust, to give, to resonate. "Then," he said softly, squeezing her hand, "let's see where this resonance takes us." "Wherever it goes," she said, and together they floated, hand in hand, ready to meet the universe, not alone, not afraid, and profoundly alive.